Welcome to Behind the Muscle podcast. Today's guest is an IFBB Pro Classic Physique. Today's guest is Eddie Shepard. Eddie, welcome to the podcast.
What's up, Quinn? Thank you for having me. Sorry, there's a plane going over.
Oh, it's okay, dude. No problem. It's real life. So I'm doing great, Eddie. I'm looking forward to chopping it up with you. The first question I've got for you is, who are a few of your favorite bodybuilders of all time?
I knew this was coming, and I'd have to say definitely Kevin Levrone as far as like the physique goes. Shoulders, triceps, upper body, quad sweep, like everything's there. Especially like 92, like rookie year, just looked ridiculous with conditioning combined. Of course, Dorian, as always, as far as like work ethic and just his general size and what he was able to do. And I'd say like toss up between like Jay Cutler and Ronnie, of course, just that era. It's just good to see them go back and forth.
For sure. Who's obviously you train at a Revive gym, so you're around a lot of elite athletes right now, but maybe outside of the guys that are in that gym, the Nick Walkers and the C-Bums and stuff like that, are there some other guys, other physiques that you really appreciate kind of on the current IFBB circuit?
Oh, of course, man. I respect all the guys, but as far as the guys that aren't in the gym, which are like the best of the best, including Nick Walker, Ian Valliere, Chris Bumstead, and then there's a lot of top amateurs too, like Kyle Wilkes, Matt Berzacott, Justin Jacoby, a lot of up and coming guys. So it's really cool to be in there. But top guys in the circuit now, Brett Wilkin is ridiculous. Hunter Labrada is obviously really, really good. I don't really pay attention too much with the classic physique guys. I really am more of a bodybuilding fan. So those guys are the guys that I kind of like, appreciate what they're doing as far as like the size that they're putting on and the quality that they're doing it at.
For sure. Absolutely. All right, Eddie. So the second question I kind of like to ask all of my guests is, at what age did you start lifting weights? And then why did you start lifting weights at that age?
I started probably like 12 years old, honestly, just trying to get bigger to play sports. I was always a small, skinny kid, and I knew that I had to be bigger and stronger to kind of compete with other people. My stepmom and my dad, I think probably my first workout set, which pretty much like an Olympic bench, Olympic setup, maybe like 220 pounds total. Started working out to Lincoln Park in the garage, honestly. Bench press, bicep curls, shrugs, things like that.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Was there who or what was your kind of earliest influence in terms of lifting weights? Obviously, I'm assuming you probably started at school, but was there like a strength and conditioning coach? Was there a football coach? Was it a parent? Who was that early childhood influence in terms of teaching how to lift?
I think at that point, it honestly might have been the magazines. I don't think it was a person at that age. I think my first like introduction was like a Flex magazine that had Ronnie Coleman on the cover, and there was a huge spread out how he had like 24-inch biceps. That was pretty much why I wanted to be, how I like got into it and kind of how I followed like some type of split. But as far as like bodybuilding after football and after like my athletic career, a guy named Tony Roccanelli, who actually came up behind, I don't know if anybody knows, John Defendez and also Steve Mahalet. So very, very intense style of training. He called it like intensity versus insanity. Very, very high volume, almost ridiculous to a point. So actually very ridiculous to a point. So
awesome, man. And we're gonna get into more of that. But I kind of like to use that last question just to kind of transition into my guest's childhood, a little bit more of the backstory. So if you don't mind sharing, Eddie, where did you grow up? You already brought up sports. Talk about maybe some of the sports you played, and maybe just touch on, an experience or two, or an individual or two that maybe really impacted you during that childhood.
Yeah, I've born and raised in Florida. I've been here my whole life. Spent majority of my adulthood in like high school years in Weston, Florida, which is like a very, very nice area, very like suburban area. Played football the entire time and worked out in between. Always tried to be bigger for the next season, bigger for the next season, bigger for the next season. So that main focus of always being bigger for the next season became the main focus, and then playing the sport actually became like secondary. So it's like the love of like being bigger and being better and like making progress there, like, surpass like the going to practice and the chalk talk and all the above. So actually ended up getting hurt my senior year of football and kind of like all the opportunities as far as like going to the next level and playing college football kind of died out. And from then on, as soon as I recovered, I actually dislocated this elbow. As soon as I recovered from this, it was like right in the gym trying to pursue like some type of bodybuilding. Didn't really know what, but bodybuilding was definitely the goal after that. But childhood, moved around a lot. I mean, went from different elementary schools to different middle schools, kind of stuck at the same high school, but always kind of, I think moving around a lot and being more of like an introvert kind of helped me become a better bodybuilder. Because you got very used to being by yourself and kind of like, you know, just being a bodybuilder. I mean, you eat, sleep, and train, and really that's all there is to it. And then at the time that I was doing it, there wasn't really many people doing it. There really wasn't much social media. So 2006, 2007 was like my intro to bodybuilding.
So if you don't mind me asking, why did you move around so much? And then kind of just a question on top of that question, did that affect you in some way? I mean, I know you said you're kind of an introvert, but it is hard, especially when you're a younger person, you know, that elementary, middle school age, it's kind of hard to move around and have to like, you know, meet new people and kind of go through some of that awkwardness. So was that tough for you or not?
Oh, for sure. I definitely think so. Did I think it was then? I don't know. But now looking back at it, for sure. I mean, I think it's, you know, it makes you the person that you are as far as like moving around, and not any particular reason why. I mean, you're just going up throughout life. I mean, you move from one area to the next. Never was super settled until like high school. And I think that's where I kind of found my own, but still was very used to being alone. Was never one to have a ton of friends, and always just kind of stuck to myself. So like I said, it helped becoming a good bodybuilder. I mean, that athletic background on top of, you know, that introverted, you know, mentality, and as far as like I said, not really looking for others' approval either, like definitely helped with bodybuilding.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So what was your mindset when you were kind of heading towards the end of your senior year? You got hurt playing football, so you kind of said those dreams of playing football after high school were done. What was your mindset in terms of what you wanted to do post high school, and then what did you kind of pursue immediately after high school?
Honestly, wasn't really sure. I went immediately to a community college in Orlando, which is the Valencia Community College over here. Started to pursue like regular classes, and then started to see guys like Steve Kuklo and some other guys in our sport like go towards more like public service jobs, like law enforcement and or like a fire department. So I went from like your normal, you know, basic general education classes in college, and I tried to immediately shift to something like that. Because for me, like I was already trying to be a bodybuilder. I did team nationals in 2007. I was only heavyweight there, so I ended up winning the heavyweight class. But it was my first show. I weighed about 202 pounds. So I was a pretty decent sized teenager. Looked up to the guys like Berzakot and, you know, Steve Kuklo, who have done it before. So yes, tried to go towards that. So any type of job that would help me be a bodybuilder. So I thought the schedule, you know, 24 hours on, you know, 48 off, that would help me be a bodybuilder. So that was the first, like, I guess you could say, introduction to like trying to find a career that would help bodybuilding. But bodybuilding was always the main focus.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So after that, it was just more, as far as branching off, as far as like schooling and what the next plan was, it was, like I said, always trying to find something for bodybuilding. So I did about 3 different associate's degrees trying to find work as far as something to do to like push me to be a bodybuilder as far as pay for everything. And never really found anything. I mean, I did some shows, never qualified for nationals as a bodybuilder. And then, I mean, you can go on to your next question. It might lead on to what I was talking about.
Yeah, well, I was just going to ask, you know, did you have the mindset then, obviously, because you were trying to shape your jobs around bodybuilding or structured around the bodybuilding. So was your mindset really like, hey, I'm going to be a pro bodybuilder, and this is the life that I'm going to live, and this is how I'm going to make my living? Is that kind of where your mind was at that stage?
That was always the push. I mean, then there wasn't really like huge social media things and like, I guess a huch push to like make your own type of brand and to make your own money. There was, but I didn't really dive into it yet. I was almost kind of like standoffish with it. And I almost haven't really got comfortable with it until now. So I was very like hesitant to like do the things like post. I picked up a small supplement contract with GAD supplements when I was about 21 years old. And even then hesitant to post. They wanted me to post on Twitter and do all these things. And I just wasn't really familiar with it and really about it. But I did a lot of demo work. I would do demos every weekend for the companies. I would train at different gyms around the state. Every time I would do a demo, I would train at a different gym. So that was my first like introduction to thinking that I can make a career out of it, but nothing that would really support like, you know, an actual lifestyle and being a bodybuilder. So it was always just odd jobs in and out until kind of found where I am now.
Okay, cool. So what was the hesitation to social media and kind of, you know, trying to build your own brand as they call it nowadays?
I mean, this is like 2000, maybe 8, 9, 10. I mean, it was fairly new. I mean, Facebook was kind of, you know, always a thing, but Instagram and all that was fairly new. I mean, and to me, it was like, I was just a bodybuilder. I wasn't a bodybuilder to be like on Instagram. I was a bodybuilder because I just wanted to be a bodybuilder. Like there was nothing that I wanted to show anybody or like, you know, show somebody how I looked or show somebody how much I lifted or like, I didn't really have needed a search for validation or like an ego-driven personality. So for me, it was just very tough to do.
So who's kind of encouraged you, or how have you kind of changed your mindset now with social media?
I mean, since then, I'm surrounded by it. I mean, I'm in one of the most popular gyms in our industry, you know, on a daily basis. I mean, every single day I'm there from, you know, I'm a personal trainer there too. I'm there from typically 5 a.m. to 7 or 8 o'clock at night. So, I mean, you kind of have to do it. The guys that we're surrounded with they don't treat it like a job. They're very like, these guys are just very down to earth and you just do what they do and here and there. But I mean, as far as like building somewhat of a business for me as a personal trainer or somewhat, I don't really do the online training, but eventually to try to build more of a personal training business, I think is something that has to be done.
For sure. So you competed in 2007, you said in the teen nationals.
Mm-hmm.
That was your first competition. Talk about just what that experience was like, because sometimes for a lot of people or for a lot of us, our first competition doesn't go, you know, the best, or it's not maybe what we expected. But so talk about that experience, and then just why don't you unpack your competition history up to the point where you earned your IFBB Pro card, if you wouldn't mind, Eddie.
Yeah, definitely. The first show that I actually did was actually the NPC Southern States, which is a pretty big show here in the Southeast, especially Florida. So I did that as my first show. I won the heavyweight class there as a teenager. I was 19. And then the following week was teen nationals. So the prep going up into that was probably like a 16-week or so prep. I had just moved to Port St. Lucie, which is the Treasure Coast area where I am now, where Revive is. It's all in the same general area. I just moved here. I just met a couple bodybuilders in the gym. It was a very cool gym. It was called TNT. It was like a hole in the wall, all old school pieces. I mean, like carrying pieces, flex fitness, hammer strength. I mean, they even had like the old school, like grip hammer strength piece. We had donkey calf raise. We had everything. It was a pretty cool place. So the trainer that first like really got me into bodybuilding, his name was Tony Raccanelli. But I had already started training. I did like a power building type of program where I was deadlifting, squatting, and benching like 3 days a week. And I got relatively big. I was like 248, 250 pounds before I even started to prep. And then he just got me and just pretty much dug me out. I was 202 in relatively good conditioning, nothing crazy like striated glutes or like what some of the guys are, like Cody Montgomery was at Teen Nationals. I was nowhere near that. But it was, I mean, decent. I mean, I had good structure. Placed well there, or got first there because nobody else was there. Missed in the overall. And I took 2 years off and did my first open show, which was back then you had levels. You had like level 2, level 3, level 4, and level 5, which was a national qualifier. So you kind of almost had to like work up the rankings before you did a national level show. And now, I mean, everybody knows there's a national show every weekend. So I don't know how that happened or just how the promoters came about it, but there's a national show every single weekend, or national qualifier every weekend. So I did my first level 2 show, won the overall there at 21. Did a level, I think 4 show next, and won my weight class, missed the overall, and then did the Southern States again as an open competitor and got, I think, 5th place my first time out of like 20 something guys. So I felt good. I was 21. I got 5th place at a very good regional show. And really just kind of after that, just took the time to try to put size on, try to put size on, try to put size on. Probably got up to like at my highest, like 275 pounds or so. Then started having kidney issues. Yeah, I was really pushing a good off season. Squatting like 5 plates on each side, deadlifting like 6 plates on each side, just really putting on size and really getting strong. I was young, so I was able to just do things like that, but like without an issue. And then my kidney started to act up. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was some of the anabolics I was taking. I don't know if it was just not being properly hydrated, but I had previous issues when I was very, very young with kidney stones. So I think my first run in with it again, I was 22 years old. Started having issues every time I really tried to push, whether it was push, anabolics, whether it was push like cardio, whether it was, just try to push myself as far as get ready for a contest. And it would just be crazy, like urinating blood. So every time I would go to the bathroom, it was just straight blood in my urine. Go to the ER, go to all these things. I can't really figure out exactly what it is, but I'm thinking it's kidney stones because it's what I've always dealt with. I've actually never really had an answer for it. I've had all kinds of tests done. I've never got an answer for why I've had these issues. Competed a couple times with the issue to where I actually pushed through the show, almost up to the day of the show. I was still, there's still blood in my urine. And then at that point, I just kind of pulled off. I just backed off. I hired a coach at one point that really pushed some things and got me really big. Not my original coach, which he's the guy who taught me everything as far as bodybuilding goes, how to eat, how to train, like how to be a bodybuilder. This other guy kind of pushed some things that I wasn't comfortable with, and I kind of just backed off and took about 5 years off from bodybuilding and just was kind of relatively normal, honestly.
So if you don't mind, I want you to kind of share. You don't have to you can go as far as you want to go with it, but for the sake of the listeners, right? Because there's a lot of listeners to this podcast. There's a lot of people that compete and other IFBB pros and things of that nature that are going to be listening to this. So talk about maybe just that experience a little bit, Eddie, and what you would maybe speak to some of the listeners that are maybe going through that right now, where a coach is pushing whatever it is on them and they don't feel comfortable, going in that direction. Like what would you say to those individuals?
I mean, you're signing up for it. So, I mean, if you're willing to do it, I mean, I would do it. But if it's something that it might be a little too much that what you're willing to do, then I would definitely have that conversation. For me, I think it was just kind of cookie cutter, and I was willing to do it. But I was still having the kidney issues. Like I hired this person specifically because I thought it would help with the kidney issues, but I was still having the issues, and I still wasn't able to really get anywhere near shape without having any type of issue where I had pain and also blood in my urine. And it wasn't anything too crazy as far as like what you would think the standard is. But it just, my body just wasn't just happy with it. But I would definitely have that conversation. And I'm sure if you're dealing with somebody who's good and knows what they're doing, they could adjust whatever protocol that they have or whatever protocol they've had planned. I mean, it's not really that difficult. So I would definitely have that conversation. I mean, definitely nowadays, if you're working with a coach, you should be pretty close with them. Back then, it was like maybe an email here and there. So,
what would you say in terms of searching for a coach? What would you suggest to any listeners that are maybe in that place as well? What's your advice? What would you suggest? From your experience, how would you go about finding the right fit or the right coach for yourself individually?
I've only personally worked with 3 guys. So it was the original coach that pretty much showed me how to be a bodybuilder. I mean, don't go anywhere without your food. Don't go anywhere without your water. Make sure you eat, every 2 to 3 hours, like all the fundamentals of what you're supposed to do. Then the other guy, and then I hooked up with Matt Jansen, and Matt Jansen was by far like the best coach I've ever worked with. And it was only a few people before them, but as far as like attention to detail, as far as making sure I was healthy, as far as, just all the above, and actually really, really getting me in the best shape of my life. I mean, that was that go-to. So I would say any of the Camp Jansen guys are really, really good to work with because they're all pretty much work under him. But I would say, I mean, obviously do your homework. Definitely don't just go based off of physique, because I would say that I have a relatively good physique, but I don't like to contest prep. Like, it's not my thing. I don't do well with check-ins. I work with people one-on-one all day long. Like, it's very difficult for me to go home and do emails and worry about, like, what changes to make for somebody's diet. Like, it's very, very mentally straining for me. So I don't do it. So I would say don't just go based off of somebody's physique, because that's what a lot of people do. So everybody who's done a contest usually is a contest prep coach. So make sure that that's not what you're dealing with. And then proof is in the pudding. I mean, go back and scroll through their Instagram and see what the people look like.
Great advice. Now, before we kind of get back into your story and a little bit more of the competing side of things, since we're already there, I would love to hear just some of your wisdom and some of your insight in terms of training people one-on-one, because kind of now with the social media age, and I own a gym, I actually really enjoy training people in person, one-on-one. I love the human element. I love seeing the facial expressions, experiencing the energy. It's just completely different than sitting behind a computer screen. And I'm right with you. Maybe someday the online coaching thing will be something for me, but I just really don't have the desire, and it's okay, right? Because we're all different. But because of social media, because of all the, different quote unquote gurus and online coaches out there, it's kind of the thing now, right? Everybody, I think, that's starting to get into fitness and bodybuilding, especially the younger people, think like that's how you make money. That's how you train and coach people. It's like, no, you can actually do it in person. So I love doing that myself. Why do you love doing that, or why do you enjoy that? And just talk about those experiences. And then why should somebody that's getting into the fitness industry and thinking about, doing online coaching or wants to be a prep coach at some point or whatever, why should they maybe start or think about starting in a gym, training people in person?
No, I mean, I love it. I mean, the only jobs that I've ever had have probably been in the gym. I've only really worked in the gym as far as like jobs. My first job was in the gym racking weights. My second job was in a gym also racking weights and helping to sell memberships. After that, I started to become a personal trainer. When I first started training people, I was horrible. Absolutely horrible. I just pretty much trained people the way that I thought that I would train. I just put people through the same type of workouts. A lot of fluff, a lot of pump stuff, a lot of just trying to beat them up. It took me a very long time to start to really individualize training and not always treat every client like bodybuilding. Everybody has different goals. Yeah, bodybuilding trainings that help them build muscle and burn fat, but it's not like the end all be all for your general health client. But I love it. I love the relationships with the clients. I love the one-on-ones. Everybody has a story. So I always like to say that I learn just as much from my clients as they learn from me, because a lot of them, especially in Revive, I mean, high-end business owners, financial advisors, a lot of people in that gym that do well. So, I mean, I learn from them. I pick up tips from them. I mean, we talk about business. We talk about their family. People have been married for 25 years. There's a reason why they've been married for 25 years. So you pick their brain as they pick my brain. So, I mean, it's something that I've always enjoyed, and I've really more so turned it more into like a teaching thing as opposed to like a training or coaching. I feel like I'm trying to teach people how to properly execute an exercise, teach people how to, work around injuries, teach people how to push past failure or whatever limitations they have. So, I mean, that's ideally like why I enjoy it so much. For somebody that's going into like the field of like online training or online coaching, I mean, it's different. I mean, a face-to-face relationship is so much different than, whatever you're doing via, text or via like a voice recording. So, I mean, and also just seeing the movements in person, seeing like what's wrong with somebody or being able to fix something that's, somebody's doing incorrectly in a video they're sending you, as far as like, typically you want your client to send you like their top sets or whatever set that they're taking to failure so you can see what they're doing. But if you're not, one-on-one with people on a daily basis, or if you haven't been one-on-one with people on a daily basis, how do you fix, person A, B, or C who has, a longer femur or just different bone structure, or, not really ankle mobility to do a proper squat. So these are all different things that I think you deal with as you deal with different people, face to face and one-on-one.
So in regards to personal training, Eddie, let's break it down. Let's keep it simple. what are a couple things just specifically through personal training? And maybe it's from a client and something they've shared with you, or just an experience within the gym as your personal training. What are a couple things that you've really learned about life and about yourself and about relationships through your personal training experiences?
Oh, I mean, a lot of things. I mean, definitely, like I said, like I have some clients that are married 25, 30 years. I mean, like I said, there's a reason for that. I mean, how are they doing it? How are they raising their kids? How are they, communicating? I mean, I ask you even about like their libido, because a lot of them are, on, hormone replacement through Revive. So these are all things that, we talk about and discuss, and also just not being like learning how to not be stagnant, continue to push. And these people are also relatively wealthy. So you don't get there by just getting there and stopping. Like you get there by, continue to push and continue to push and continue to push. So there's always levels. I mean, there's always levels to everything that we're doing. There's always people that are doing it better. So learning that from them. Trying to think what else. Accountability. I think accountability is huge too with one-on-ones, because there's plenty of times where if they weren't there, I wouldn't show up. And there's a lot of times where if I wasn't there, they wouldn't show up. There's times where if I go into a funk and I feel like canceling clients and I don't feel like being there, when I get there and I, work with such and such or so and so, and then I work with the next person, I feel like my mood elevates, I would say, tenfold. So I want to sit home and I don't want to do anything because of whatever. As soon as I get there and I get in front of my people and I better their day, they end up, bettering my day. As corny as that sounds, but that's honestly how it is. We spend a lot of time just doing nothing. And then by the time I get in front of people, it makes a difference.
For sure. No, that's awesome, man. So I want to take a step back into your story. So you have the 5-year hiatus from competing. You're, working through the kidney issues and all of that. Did you just kind of focus on personal training and business and life during that 5 years, or what was that 5 years filled with? And then was it hard for you being away from the stage during that time?
During that point, I, focused on actually, I opened up a business. I worked for a buddy of mine where we had a sports nutrition store. It was called Mad Muscle Nutrition. It was right off a very busy interstate up here called US 1. Managed that for him for about 3 or 4 years. So that was like my next job after just being in the gym business. I ran a small brick and mortar sports nutrition store. So probably about 1,000 square feet. Front of the store maybe had like 600 square feet, and there was like 300 square feet of office space in the back, which I'll get to later, which is pretty cool. So he ended up wanting to sell the store. I didn't really want to do it because I was tired of like being stuck in the same 4 walls like all day long, because you got to think retail, like you're there when you're open, you're there when you close. And if you want to do well, and if you want to take home the majority of the money, you're there. You don't want anybody else to be there. So you're there all day long. You don't really have breaks. I mean, limited training. So training wasn't the focus. So, I mean, I was there from open to close every day. At some point, my family kind of talked me into, wanting to open up the business. So we took out a small loan. We opened up the business. We completely changed it around. New colors, new shelving, just pretty much redid it. So it wasn't like the same type of environment. And then just brought the same type of service and like just products to, to the area. This is before, I mean, Amazon was there, but it wasn't like blowing up to where everybody was just buying everything off Amazon. There was still maybe one other brick and mortar store, and then you just have like vitamin shops and GNCs around here. So you're coming into a store like mine to talk about bodybuilding or talk about like how to build muscle, and we're giving you wholesale prices and, decent products. So that was mainly the idea. So did that for about 4 years, but about 2 years after taking over the business, I knocked down the office space in the back and opened up like a little personal training area. So that 300 square feet ended up being a small little studio. So I had dumbbells up to like 110 pounds, had kettlebells, I had a spin bike, hammer strength, leg press, hammer strength bicep curl, like not a commercial grade, like functional trainer, but like a Gold's Gym functional trainer, leg curl, leg extension combo. So I started training clients in the back of the business before hours and also after hours. So when it was hours, I would just be there and kind of just help out customers. And then if I had somebody come in here and help me out, then I would take off. But I was pretty much there all the time. Still training here and there, but not really any desire to compete. I was maybe, because I remember I got up to like 270 pounds as far as like my peak. So I was maybe like 240 or so, like still walking around, like kind of skinny fat, but still with some tissue. From there, ran into Dominic Icavone, which is the owner of Revive and like serial entrepreneur, like crazy businessman. So we had met each other previously here and there, but we met at a local gym, and we just kind of just hit it off. He had ideas of opening up a wellness clinic. I had ideas of kind of just continue to do what I was doing and eventually pursue bodybuilding. And then eventually we just kind of came together and just I closed down my business and we kind of just linked up together, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And that was kind of how everything kind of like took off again as far as like the career and bodybuilding and like kind of finding my niche now.
Yeah, it's very cool. I've
which kind of like gets me emotional because it's pretty crazy where we're all at from there.
Yeah, no, dude, we're gonna dive into that. And I, I've had gone back and forth with Matt Jansen on email and Dom on DMs on Instagram, just real, genuine people. Right. And we're going to get into that because, I've had a conversation with Matt Berzicott on my other podcasts and had another Camp Jansen coach on this podcast. And I'm always just fascinated by the culture that you guys are building. So we're going to get there. But I just want to continue to kind of unpack your competition history, and then we'll kind of get into all the business things to wrap up our conversation. So talk about your third coach. You said you hired Matt Jansen, and then obviously you get back into competing because at some point you earned your IFBB Pro card. So continue to talk about that, but just talk about the kidney issues. Has that been resolved? How did you resolve it? Is it still an issue? Because that is the real life of your story, right? We've all got issues. We all got struggles. We all got things we've got to, break through and overcome. So please include that in getting back into competing.
Yeah, I stayed with my initial trainer up until, I can't recall the date. Maybe it was 2014 or so. The last show I did with him was just the NPC Pittsburgh. So I opted out of doing our Florida shows as far as the national qualifiers. And I wanted to get in front of, obviously the Pittsburgh judges, which are, Jim Mannion and, all the above at that show. That was actually the last show that I did where I still had blood in my urine, like up into the show. I ended up placing, I think, like 4th in the heavyweight class. So I never actually qualified nationally as a bodybuilder. Ended up doing, after that, I ended up doing one more show with the same guy. So I went to the Southern States again, because I figured if I can do all the Southern States, I can go to the national level, and make an attempt at, trying to get a pro card. So go to the Southern States again, and I think got 4th again. So never was really able to dial conditioning, and I was about 215 pounds. But no kidney issues then, but was afraid to do certain things because of it. And nothing heavy as far as anabolics, but I don't think we did a diuretic. I don't think we did really anything, which you don't really need, but there was just certain things that we just kind of like, I didn't push hard with cardio. I kind of just like backed off because I was afraid if I overdid it, that it would come back again. Took some time off after that, kind of did my own thing. Tried to get ready for another contest, I think 2017. So 2017 I tried. So from 2013 or 14 to 2017 was a pretty big break because I just knew that my body couldn't push it. And I was in a relationship at the time where she's my ex-wife now, but my wife at the time and our fiance at the time just didn't really want me to do it because she was like pretty concerned about my health, and she had competed before, so she'd been through the whole process. So it was always like kind of on the back burner of what I've always wanted to do and just what I thought I could do. And it wasn't until Chris Bumstead won the Olympia, and I was like, holy shit, like that's the kind of look that I think my body can kind of look like, and that's the kind of look that I think that is very not necessarily attainable, but very like people like and people want to see. My body can't at this point, or where I was, I couldn't push to be a 240, 250 pound bodybuilder. Like it just wasn't happening. Like I tried, it just wasn't happy with it. So it came to that, to where I had tried again, and then I got to the point to where I was like, I think like 6 or 7 weeks out from junior USAs, I wanted to try to do a pro qualifier, and started urinating blood again. So this was by myself. So this wasn't with the help of anybody. So actually Dom was helping me. So Dom and I would bounce ideas back off each other because Dom was also a bodybuilder. So Dom would kind of help me out there. nothing crazy. Anabolics were normal. Food was normal. Cardio was normal. Stress levels are pretty high. Not necessarily from work, but just a lot of, different things I was going through. And I was in a relationship where I wasn't, extremely happy. I was happy and content, but I just knew that there was more of what I wanted as far as like my life. And it was kind of going in that direction during this time. And I think my body just kind of shut down again. So I started urinating blood, extreme pain. It's like literally being stabbed in the back. So I'm not really sure. And everybody always thought it was kidney stones, but I was never able to actually catch any stones. I never actually got stones and brought them in. So still to this day, I don't really know exactly what it is, but now I just monitor and make sure like my BUN is good and my creatinine is good and my GFR, all these things are like in healthy ranges before I do anything as far as push. But yeah, that was it. I kind of just backed off again, took time off to kind of focus on the career, help Dom with different revives and, different supplement stores and whatever ideas he had at the time. And then Revive MD kind of like came into the mix, and Matt Jansen kind of came into the mix, and I reached out to him, not really looking to compete or anything, but more so just to kind of get like my physique back and that mindset back. And kind of just took off from there, honestly. It went from like working out here and there and sending him progress pictures to being like, all right, let's it was my idea. I was like, there's a show in like 6 weeks, can we do it? And he was like, you could do it, but it's going to be tough. So I got ready for our first show together in 2018 in 6 weeks, which was pretty crazy. The best condition I've ever been in. I mean, like hard striated glutes. I mean, everything was there, but I was relatively thin because I hadn't trained for so long hard, so the tissue wasn't there. And it was a Caribbean Grand Prix. It was a pro qualifier. It was the first year that the IFBB started doing pro qualifiers like internationally, as far as like IFBB shows. So I flew out there with my 2 stepsisters, which were, I mean, it was amazing. It was so much fun. I honestly planned on doing it by myself. And they just opted in to come with me. And there was no way that I would have been able to do it without them, because I was like dying at one point, like barely making it to the plane because I had to make weight. So yeah, just missed my pro card there because they were giving out pro cards to the overall winner. So I got second. So last minute, Matt was like, let's just throw you into the light heavyweight class. I think you can beat everybody. And I was like, yeah, I think I could beat everybody too. So just missed winning the light heavyweight class. The light heavyweight guy won the overall, got his pro card. Won my classic class, but missed in the overall. I think my body just kind of flattened out by then and it just kind of missed. So took that time off, pushed for the Junior USA's the next year, which might have been like maybe, I think 5 or 6 months after. I was able to get my body weight up to like 220, 225, which is the biggest I'd been in a long time in good conditioning, because, working with Matt, he doesn't let his guys get, out of shape. And then went there and just missed winning, but got my pro card at second place.
Cool.
So got a second place pro card at Junior USA's, which it hurts. Like, I mean, it's a pro card. A lot of people probably are like, oh, you got a pro card, but I still haven't even submitted for it. Like, it's one of those things where I haven't even submitted for it. I do plan on competing, and I would love to compete again, but that was the last time I competed. So 2019 Junior USA's. Very
cool, man. So bodybuilding, the lifestyle, it is a lifestyle. It's all consuming, right? What is it about bodybuilding, Eddie, going all the way back to, kind of the beginning of your bodybuilding story, your bodybuilding experience? What do you think it is, or what do you know it is that just sucked you in, pulled you in, and you're like, I'm a bodybuilder. I want to be a bodybuilder. Like, I love this lifestyle. What is it for you, Eddie?
Honestly, I don't know, man. I mean, I've watched every single Battle for the Olympia going back to like whenever Mitsuru started doing it. I mean, and this was like before they were on YouTube. Like, I mean, Blockbuster back in the day, I don't know if people remember, Blockbuster back in the day used to actually be able to go online and order these movies. Like, you'd had, Battle for the Olympia 97, you'd have, full blown Kevin LeBron, you had, Blood and Guts during, I mean, you had all these videos, and I would just constantly subscribe to these videos and they would come to me. And I was 18, 19 years old, and I just like buried myself into the bodybuilding lifestyle, to the bodybuilding culture. I mean, 90s bodybuilding was like it, and like early 2000s bodybuilding was it for me. I mean, the way the guys looked, the way that they ate, I mean, it was ridiculous. I mean, it was just fun to watch. I mean, that was a lot of fluff. Now, I mean, there's a lot of things that I don't do that you'd watch in these videos now that I would be like, it's a little much, as far as like some of the exercises and just like the constant, maybe for the video or for what it was from. But there's a lot of things that I don't do now that you see back then. But I mean, the posing after every single, session of that they would train, as far as like, if there was like Gold's or whatever gym that they were at, with this at Bev's, they would always pose after each, training session. So studying how the guys posed, studying how they went through their transitions, studying what I didn't like about a pose, studying what I did like about a pose. I mean, that was kind of how I came to it. Like, nobody really taught me how to pose. I taught myself how to pose from watching, the best guys do it over and over and over and over again. I mean, and as far as like wanting to still do it, I mean, there's just something that's just not done yet. I mean, you work so hard to attain something that's, for some people, is like will never ever happen. And yeah, it's a lot easier to get a pro card now than it was in the 90s. But if I have it, why not take advantage of it? Why not do it? So I'm trying to put things in order now. I'm actually training with some really good guys, in Ian and Kyle Wilkes, which is really cool. So I've blocked off my schedule for a certain time to where I'm not taking on clients. And I'm just kind of focusing on, being a bodybuilder again, and then take it from there.
Excellent, man. How has your training personally for yourself evolved or changed over the years?
A lot, actually. I mean, I've done it all. I've done like a power building block. I've done high volume and that intensity versus insanity that I mentioned earlier, where it was like not necessarily Milo style, but giant sets upon giant sets, just going to where you just can't go. I mean, there was a point to where you just, like, my trainer would look the other way and I would stop doing it. I would, count an extra 5 reps. It was like that type of stuff. So it was not necessarily productive. So I've done that. I've done my own mixture of like, I've done John Meadows splits that I've got before. I've done different pro splits. I've seen a lot of different guys of Dave Palumbo's, as far, and then like pick and choose what I like. But ever since I've started working with Matt, and ever since I've been in Revive and around like guys like Alan Kress and Nick Gluff, it's like different guys like this, it's changed more so into just doing movements that are necessary, or doing movements that are efficient in whatever you're trying to do, and not, adding a lot of fluff to it just to, push blood and volume. Yeah, the blood and volume is going to be there when you're doing a set properly, but just eliminating a lot of the fluff, I think. Like I like to tell people, and I think one of my clients kind of said it, he's like, because you've done it for so long, he's like, you kind of like have like the cheat codes, like, all the things like not to do anymore, because you've already done it all. Like I've already bench pressed, for so many years. I don't even look at a barbell anymore. I've already done these things for so long that have, either injured me or put me behind in my progress, that I know not to, have my clients do. So there's certain things like that. And just like hand placement, or pressing through a certain part of your palm, or just different things like that. I think just like speaks volumes to it.
Is mindfulness and having your mind connected to your movement within the gym, is that something that is a big part, or has become a big part of your training for yourself? And then also, how you teach your clients to train?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, that's always been my thing. I mean, going back to when I was a teenager, I was always very mindful of how I moved the weight, as far as like staying under control and making sure it came down at a certain pace, and then coming up and trying to contract fully. There were times where I did certain things, like we're watching Jason Hutt, him do partials from a lengthened motion, that now I understand it more, because he was actually working from a position which, actually required more tension on the muscle. But there was different things like that I would always try, or band tension, things like that I would always try. But it was the general consensus, and the general idea was always to feel exactly what you were trying to do, or or use the muscle that you were trying to actually train. I mean, never move the weight from point A to point B, but stretch and squeeze. Like, stretch the muscle, flex the muscle, stretch the muscle, flex the muscle. That was always the idea. It's obviously become more advanced now, because I know where you want to spend more time in the stretch, or where you want to spend more time in the squeeze, or, certain movements, let off tension at the top or let off at the bottom, or certain things like that, which I'm more aware of now, after being in an environment that I'm in now, which I more so can apply to myself, which I think is cool. But go back to what you were saying. That I kind of like went off.
Oh no, you're good. Just talking about just how we tie in, how you tie in the mindset, your mind to your movement.
Oh yeah, and then
big part, right?
And I'm always trying to relay that message to my clients. So the more that you slow down, the more that you're going to feel it. The more it's going to burn, but the more that you're going to get out of it. So you kind of got to, I always tell them, like, embrace that pain. And it's not a pain to where it's like, oh, that doesn't feel right, but embrace that discomfort of that set, not trying to rush through it and race to that finish line. A big thing for me, I'm constantly telling my clients is to slow down, not to rush, take their time, and to catch their breath. A lot of clients, what they want to do after a set is, as soon as you move that pin to the next one, they want to jump in for some reason. And I'm like, you don't understand, like, take your time, catch your breath, get another feel, like go over that set that you just did. What did you do wrong? What did you do right? Now, when we get to this next set, make that set better. So there's time, like trying to coach people like that time that they needed between sets, as opposed to like, oh, I got to a certain set or I got to a certain number, let's try to do it again. And I always tell people, like, I don't care how many reps we do. I also don't care how much the weight is. I want the reps to be perfect. So like people are like, oh, how many are we doing? Like, it doesn't matter how many we're doing. Like, we're just going to do them until you can't do them right again. And I'm going to fix your form until we get to the point that happens. So until you find what actual failure is. Some people get it, some people don't. I get to a point to where I can only tell people so many times, and then I just let them do their thing. And then I start counting reps. But I prefer to actually stay in it. Like, I almost feel like I'm training with my clients, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. That's beautiful, man. So that ties right into you being a NeuX practitioner. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. So that ties in perfectly to, NeuX. You're a practitioner for that. First of all, explain what that whole NeuX is, because when you get on Instagram, we're starting to see more of these. I don't even really know what they're called, but kind of these contraptions or machines being used with the pro bodybuilders and pro athletes. So break it down for us simply. What is NeuX, and how did you kind of get involved in being a practitioner, and how can it be an advantage for athletes, bodybuilders, people that just want to get better?
I mean, I think it's great. It's something that I came across. A buddy of mine was pushing it. He had been working with another company, which is the company that Brad Rowe works with, which is NeuFit, I believe, which is very, very similar technology. They have 8 ports, and their machine goes up a little bit higher in frequency. The higher the frequency, the more it lengthens the tissue. So they have the ability to go a little bit higher in frequency than mine does. Mine goes up to 250 hertz, and mine only has 2 ports. So I opted out for mine, so it's more of a, not necessarily general use, but more something I can have in the gym. And it's not as expensive as the NeuFit, and that the technology is a little bit different and a little bit more advanced from what the studies have shown. So you don't necessarily have to go as high. Sometimes those machines can actually end up giving people rhabdo and cause some damage to the kidneys from just overtraining. But I got introduced specifically to that. The first person I ever saw using it was Brad Rowe. And I'm sure everybody and every other bodybuilder was like, what kind of like gimmick is this? Like, what is going on here? So the first opportunity that I had to use it, I was like, all right, let's just give it a shot. I mean, the guy that I spoke to is a good friend of mine. He swore by it. He threw me on the machine, and I've been training forever, since I was 12 years old. I mean, and as a bodybuilder since I was 19 years old. So one of the craziest things I've ever experienced. Like, it's very hard to explain what it actually feels like. You can explain what it does, but it's very hard to explain what it actually feels like and what it does to you. Like, it totally, like, just like it's like getting hit by a truck. I mean, by your second or third like movement, like, you feel like you've been hit by a truck. You feel like you had just done legs. You feel like it's like very central nervous system taxing. It really depletes glycogen. So, like, so I've said, some people go hypo. So it's pretty intense. So you got to kind of play with it and find your groove, and also, know who your client is and what their goals are. But I used it and I was kind of blown away. I have an issue with my right VMO. I have no idea what happened, but it literally like started to like almost like atrophy, but atrophy from like the top of it into the muscle to where there's like a hole about this size in my VMO. Never tore it, never had black and blue, never had pain, never had weakness. Just over the years or over the last 2 years of not bodybuilding after getting my pro card, I have no idea, but it just kind of just happened. I don't know if it's a nerve thing. I don't know what it is. So that was kind of why I was mainly sold on it, not specifically for the bodybuilding purposes of it, but to try to fix, what was going on with my BMO as far as like whatever nerve issue it was. I could send a signal through that and try to wake it up and try to get that muscle to, fire and grow again. So I was sold. I got my machine and I just started working with my original clients with it. I started giving all my clients like free sessions on it. So it was the holiday when I first got it. I was like, I just got this new machine. It's really cool. I can explain to you what it does, but you won't know until you do it. So I just started putting all my clients on it. And of course they all loved it and then started wanting to repeat sessions. And then I was just in the gym, all the time using it so people saw it. But what the machine actually does, it is a electromagnetic stimulation. So it sends a signal to the muscle, a alternating current and a direct current. So the higher the frequency, the more it's actually a lengthening frequency. So it's actually lengthening the tissue and stretching the tissue. The lower the frequency, the more it contracts, to shortening frequency. So this machine is actually able to do both at the same time. So I can crank it all the way up to 250 hertz and lengthen the muscle, and I can crank it all the way down to 250 or to 50 and shorten the muscle. But with that being said, what it does, it allows the muscle to fully contract and fully lengthen. So there's studies that show it recruits like 90 to 95% of your muscle fiber. And I think like the average athlete's like 30%. So, I mean, it's triple that as far as that goes. Just actually putting the machine on the muscle and doing like an active warm up before working out, not even actually training with it on, increases your muscle activation significantly. So that's pretty much the idea behind it, is just to actually get more out of the tissue with less of a load. So there's less wear and tear on the joints. There's more connection directly to the muscle. And that's just for the bodybuilding purposes. And then there's a lot of uses for it in the rehab world. So getting muscles to fire again, working with people's injuries, directing or having people learn new movement patterns by directing pain away, because that actual machine will actually block the pain signal that gets sent to the brain. So now somebody who can't actually, raise their hand can actually start doing that now, because that pain barrier is gone now. So I can actually learn new movement patterns while the machine's on. And then the more work that you do, you can actually start getting people to train, completely pain-free. So I get people who have barely any range of motion, can't lift their arm up here, can't bring their arm up here. And after like 10 or 15 minutes of putting on that high frequency and sending a lengthening signal into the muscle and through the muscle, they can start, doing all these movements again. And I can actually put them through a full workout without pain.
Now, I've heard just from, listening to different podcasts and practitioners and stuff, this is something that is a tool, and I'm referring more to bodybuilding, right? Mm-hmm. This is more of a tool as opposed to something that you're going to use every day throughout a contest prep. Is that fair to say? Is that correct to say? And then if so, why is it more of a tool and not something that we're going to use every single day in terms of trying to be the best bodybuilders?
Definitely a tool. I mean, you've got some of the top bodybuilders on the road using it, like Brandon Curry. And I don't think they're using it every single day. I honestly don't think you could, because it is pretty, like if you're using it properly and you're training hard, like it's going to run you into the ground. So think about training legs 5 days a week, not necessarily what it's doing to your legs, but just to your central nervous system. So like your body can't really keep up with it. Maybe after time, you're going to build up a tolerance to it, and you can, you can use it maybe 3 to 4 days a week and get the most out of it. But I mean, you're going to have to eat, significant amount more carbohydrates on that day. I mean, there's going to be different things that are in play that are going to make sure you get the most out of it without going backwards. Because I think with these machines, you can start to go backwards if you're not doing things correctly. So, because it is, like I said, you're activating tissue, 3 times more than you would. So think about doing that 3-4 times, in a row, a chest day, a back day, and then legs, and then, trying to do it again for arms, that you're going to be shot. Like, you're just not going to be able to do it.
Definitely makes sense. So I want to kind of finish out our conversation, Eddie. Like I said earlier, coming back to the business side of things, because as I've already stated, I from afar am just excited and so respectful towards what you guys are building down there in Stuart, Florida at Revive and Raw headquarters, and just all the athletes and all the practitioners and all the trainers and the powerful minds that are down there. So talk about, you kind of mentioned you met Dom, and that was kind of the beginning of just some movement in your personal life in terms of business, and maybe starting to open up some doors that you really wanted open in your life and the direction you want to go. So talk about kind of the beginning stages of your connection with Dom and just how that has evolved over the last several years, and how you are a part of the community down there in Stuart, Florida, and kind of what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I know Dom has been here from day one. He went to high school here. He grew up here. This is, I mean, the Treasure Coast in the Stuart area is where Dom grew up, and spent the majority of his like young adulthood. I moved here in 2007. I think I first like met him around like 2009, but 2017 was when we pretty much were just like, he had just finished school. He had just finished doing, I think, his like after you graduate, he went to chiropractic school. So like his like next degree. So he had just finished that. He came home, and I think his main plan was to, start the wellness clinic and go from there. And I was, just a somewhat, bodybuilder, just still trying to make it. I had my own supplement store, was training clients, was just trying to figure out what I could do to try to be, a successful bodybuilder. And we just kind of hit it off. I mean, we started training together. I mean, I think after like the second or third time we hung out, I was already over at his dad's house having dinner. Very, very good people, accepted me and like treated me like a brother from day one. I mean, it was kind of, we hit it off like that. So I still had my business. He was doing his thing and starting to get to the point to where the clinic was starting to, like, I guess, get its foothold and become like what it was. And then by the time he opened up his first clinic, I was what you could call like a patient coordinator, like part-time, while I still had my store. So I was helping, talk to the patients, inform them about their hormone replacement therapy, kind of guide them in what kind of direction would help, best, suit their either goals or whatever they were lacking in as far as, sex drive, whether they feel as far as your energy, different things like that, as far as like whatever the blood was showing us. So I was doing that part-time, still had my store as far as a supplement store. And then he wanted to kind of do his own thing and open up his supplement store and kind of wanted to do it together. So I pretty much closed mine down and went into business. And we had in the main plaza where we first started, we had the Revive Wellness Clinic, and then we had EHP, which was a supplement store that we kind of just went in together and just kind of put together, and just it kind of transformed to what I had directly into that, which was pretty cool. So in the same plaza, you had pretty much people going from the clinic, going to the supplement store, kind of going back and forth. And like I mentioned earlier, which I'm sure everybody's seen, Dom is a very smart businessman, and he kind of just fed off of that. He knew that the supplements, go hand in hand with blood work, and, certain things can fix certain things. So started to get into formulating his own like health supplements. Originally, it was with a company called Ortho Molecular Labs, which is you have to actually have a physician's license to order these supplements. And it was just general health supplements, like, with the Revive logo on them. Then got to the point to where Matt Jansen got involved, where he became a patient, and they just kind of hit it off and decided to do a supplement company. And that supplement company, which was Revive MD, kind of was born from that. So that's kind of where Revive MD started. It was kind of, Dom and Matt going back and forth with the general health supplements and trying to find the best formulas, and me packing them up and shipping them out. So that was kind of it from the get-go.
Where did the Revive gym come into play? And then please talk about just the environment that gym is, because from my outside perspective, like when I see the Nick Walkers of the world and the C-Bums of the world training there, I also see, like you mentioned earlier, probably some of your clients that are, 50s, 60s training in the same gym. So
oh yeah,
it looks like it has a unique dynamic, because you've got some of the most elite professional athletes in the world training there. But then you've got, like you said, you've got the real estate agents or or what have you, the people that are retired just living in Florida training there. So talk about, how did the gym come to be? And then just talk about the dynamics there and how there is that dichotomy, but how it's kind of cool and it works, right? Because that is very unique.
It's one of the coolest things I've ever seen. And I mean, I've been into bodybuilding my entire life, and it's like, how did I end up here, like in my hometown, of like this like center of like bodybuilding and just health and wellness? It's very cool. Dom and I originally just started throwing the ideas around from the get-go when we first started, hanging out. Was, imagine if we had a supplement store and, the clinic in one and the gym. So it was kind of like he always wanted to do it. I mean, we started talking about this way before I think even he opened his first clinic. So it just got to the point to where they started shopping around for buildings and found one, and it ended up being very close to the clinic. So at first the clinic stayed as the clinic, and the gym was, as the gym was being built, and the clinic stayed as the clinic. So the business was always running and operating as the gym was being built. The main idea of the gym was to have everything all in one. So the supplement store, the health and wellness clinic, and the gym all under one roof, kind of feeding off each other and just kind of creating a pretty good environment to where everybody, in a sense, sees results. There's a one-stop shop for everything. There's no reason why every member can't, be their best type of deal. So it started off as that. And then the old spot that we had, that was the original clinic, ended up being like the Revive MD warehouse. So clinic, I mean, the gym pops up. Then I think Dom and everybody's, as far as like who was involved, like the main idea with the gym was to make it a gym that us bodybuilders would, want to train in and be in, but also, a gym that's very cleanly. We have private restrooms where the members can go in the back, and there's a shower in each bathroom. There's a sink in each bathroom. There's a toilet in each bathroom. I believe there's 6 of them. And then there's a regular locker room. So you don't have the locker room where there's like naked dudes walking around. It's a different type of environment. Not foo-foo like in LA Fitness or any of these other type of places, but just always clean. We've always got staff cleaning. We've always got new equipment coming in. He's always doing something different as far as like expanding the gym. So I mean, I think it just became a place where the locals, as far as like the people who have been here forever, as far as like the gym goers that have been to every single gym that have popped up, they just type of came and made it their own because it was just better than anything else they've ever been to. And then the bodybuilders came because of Matt and Dom.
Excellent, man. What is kind of obviously you're a part of something special with Revive and Raw down there, but for you personally, do you have like a personal vision or like personal goals or a personal direction that you really want to take your life and see it evolve?
Yeah, I mean, I've been through every up and down, I think, of a competitive bodybuilder. I mean, getting your pro card, and then a month later, breaking both my hands and just losing my tools, and 6 months later, like losing a pro physique that I've worked a while to get. So I've been through all the ups and downs, and I mean, the main focus, not necessarily like career wise or anything, but I would love to compete again. I think I could definitely stand at the top as far as like at a local, not a local show, but at a pro show and be amongst the top guys and the top call outs, and then eventually, win one, and then eventually, get to Olympia. Do I think I could stand next to the likes of Chris Bumstead and Terrence Ruffin? Not really, because I'm pretty realistic and I'm a lot older. But would I like to attempt to get there and, get to Olympia stage and make the whole journey, worth it? Definitely. But as far as business aspect, build Revive's personal training program. We really don't have one. We all just kind of have independent trainers and some trainers that are house trainers. But the next plan is to build the Revive Gym's PT program, because I mean, knowing Dom and knowing Matt, this is not the only gym. I mean, there's going to be something else. I don't know where. I don't know if there's anything already in the conversation, but this is home base. And if I can generate our PT program here and make it sound here, whatever else opens up, I'm sure I'll go along with. So that's the main idea. And that's the end goal for me, because I don't want to be on my feet training 12 clients a day. And I also don't want to depend on, online business. So if I can train the people that I want to train people on the machine with the NeuX, and then build the PT program where I can, funnel clients to different trainers, That's the idea. And then trying to have all the trainers on the same page, you know, eliminate the fluff and eliminate the stuff that you see personal trainers doing, because a lot of personal trainers are pretty bad. And try to get everybody on the same page to where, you know, the clients are kind of all generating results, and also get to the point to where everybody, like I said, the clients are, you know, in the supplement store, the clients are, you know, patients over at the clinic, you know, if all these things are tied in, you know, everybody sees results and everybody refers more people.
Excellent. Nadia, why don't you, from your Instagram, it seems like she's a huge bright spot in your life and has probably breathed some fresh air into your life. So why don't you just talk about her, talk about how you guys met and what she means to you.
Yeah, Nadia is like I said, I was married and I didn't get divorced because of Nadia, but she was, in a sense, like I said, there was something missing where what I had before, and she, for me, just kind of was everything that I not necessarily was missing, but everything I, you know, wanted and everything that I thought I wanted as far as in like a partner in a relationship. She's actually the person who got me back into competing, because there's the person, or she lost like 40 or 50 pounds, I think, for one prep to get ready for a show. And I was like, holy shit, because I used to do stuff like that. I would get to like 200 and something pounds and I would lose 50 pounds just to get in shape because I was so fat. So I was like, man, if she can do it, like I can definitely do it. There's no reason why I can't compete again and get my pro card. So one of the main drives for why I started competing again, we did the Junior USAs together, which was pretty crazy because I ended up getting my pro card by getting second. She got first and missed her pro card in the overall. So pretty long drive home, but I don't know if either one of us were really ready to compete as pros yet. So it is, you know, a learning lesson for sure. And she, the next year or the year after that, hooked up with Matt, and she got her pro card by winning the overall at nationals, which was 2021, I believe. So last year, or 2020 last year. So, but I mean, what else can I say? I mean, she's one of the main reasons why I pushed past like my comfort zones and done the things that I do, or do the things that I do, because I was very content with just being, I don't want to say a lazy bodybuilder, but just being somebody who was just a bodybuilder. Like, I know like being just a bodybuilder doesn't work anymore. Like there's so many other things that you have to do to make a living and to sustain a certain lifestyle and to just be successful in general. Definitely one of the main, you know, people who pushed me out of my comfort zone. So,
how did you guys meet, if you don't mind me asking, Eddie?
We were both Revive employees. So we both, you know, we spent a lot of time together, and then just kind of hit it off like that. And then the love of bodybuilding and the idea of like being the best in the world was just something that kind of we just hit it off together with.
Beautiful, man. So we're gonna wrap it up here. I want to ask you, I saw this hashtag on at least one of your posts. I'm sure it's probably on more than one, but I just saw it on one. It kind of caught my eye. It was hashtag logical, not emotional.
Yeah, I've
break that down for us, please.
I have I would say, I don't know, I'm 34 now. I'll be 34 actually next week or so. So over the last, I don't know, half of my life, I've just realized like the less emotion you can put behind decisions and or actions, and the more that you can think it out before you do, like the better off you're going to be. Because like I said, I mean, I've broken both my hands, you know, I've done, you know, things that have put me so far in a hole that that were so unnecessary. If I would have just, you know, thought about it or took a second to breathe or just worked more, you know, thought more rational as opposed to just out of anger or, you know, pain. So yeah, I think that's a big thing. I think everybody, I think, is slowed down a little bit, especially when you start to get a little bit emotional and like think about what you're about to say or what you're about to do. I've been in plenty of positions that would have kept me out of the position that I am in now. That if I would have been emotional and if I would have, acted upon whatever, pain or anger or love or whatever emotion that was at the time, then I probably wouldn't be, where I am now as far as like being a successful trainer and, back on the road to trying to be a bodybuilder. So, I mean, there's so many things, or just being like in this environment that I speak of, like people on the outside have got, I think about it all the time, like people have got to look in at what's going on and at this gym and in this area and be like, how fucking cool it would be to be there and to train. And I'm completely aware of that. I'm very grateful for that. And if I was, like I said, if I wasn't as logical as I am, and if I didn't slow down and do the things that I know, are right, as opposed to acting on emotions, I wouldn't be, where I am.
Excellent, man. What's the biggest lesson or takeaway up to this point in terms of bodybuilding, or what has bodybuilding taught you or given you?
Bodybuilding probably given me everything, honestly. I mean, football teaches you these like values as far as like, being on time and, being accountable, and you're only as good as the guy next to you and things like that. But with bodybuilding, I mean, it's as much effort as you put into it. I was always very good at being a bodybuilder, as far as like just being a bodybuilder. I never like translated to the stage because I never got like in great shape. But I suffering was okay with me. Like, being alone was okay with me. Eating the food was like, it was all just completely normal. Applying any of those strengths or applying any of those like attributes as like a competitive bodybuilder to like day-to-day life was something that I had to disconnect for a very long time. Like, I could be really good and regimented and be a perfect bodybuilder, but I can't be accountable to, reach back out to a client, or, just like the simple things that, would get you ahead in life. I could never apply those things to like day-to-day life or to like another job. Maybe just because the love of it wasn't there. But like I said, until now, it's just different. Like, bodybuilding has got me somehow to a position to be surrounded by the best, people in the world, and on a daily basis. So, I mean, it's because of bodybuilding. Like, it's because I've been doing it for so long. It's because I've never really stopped bodybuilding. It's because I continue to try to learn. I mean, I soak up everything. I mean, I'm in that gym, watching guys like Alan, watching guys like Nick, watching Matt. I mean, I've been doing this since I was, 13, 14 years old. And I still, I'm like, what else can I do to be better? So, what else can I do to apply to my clients to be better? So, I mean, it's very cool. And it's all because of bodybuilding. And it's, like I said, when people can, if you are a good bodybuilder and it's easy for you to be a bodybuilder and those things are easy, figure out a way to translate that to whatever else you can, because being a bodybuilder is not going to make you any money unless you're very, very good. So that's really like my main advice for that, is translate what you learn and what you've gone through, like being a competitive bodybuilder, and how to suffer and how to struggle and how to have a goal. Like, if you can like put that towards anything else, I think you'd be pretty good. But for some reason, a lot of us have that disconnect.
Very well put, man. Yeah, I love it. I really do. Eddie, I just want to thank you, man, for taking some time out of your full busy schedule to chop it up with me, man, share your story.
I appreciate it.
It's greatly appreciated. You kind of just gave us some words of wisdom right there. But if there is anything else that you would like to leave with us and the listeners, myself included, please share that at this time. And then if somebody wants to connect with you, if somebody's down in the Stuart, Florida area, and they want to connect with you in person or through social media, why don't you give all of that information out? If there's any codes or anything for any of the supplements, anything that you want to share, go ahead and share it. If you do have some final words, also leave us with that.
No, I mean, I want to thank you for having me on. I've actually never done anything like this, or I've never actually, it's been a while since I've been looked at as like a bodybuilder, or if I've been reached out to talk about like bodybuilding, because it's been 2 years since I actually competed. And you're surrounded by some of the best guys in the world. So like, like you're just not a bodybuilder anymore, because like you're around real bodybuilders. So it's cool to come on and talk about bodybuilding, and just like I said, just be in the mix with it again. And what to take from it is like, make sure that you love what you're doing. I mean, this is all us like a a real hobby. Like if you're good at it, which is, you know, some people are good, but if you're like really good at it, you can make a living at it. But there's gotta be another stream of income, and it's not going to be by getting social media famous, you know, by posting workout videos. Like it's not. So I mean, like I said, just like apply whatever it is that you learn from this to what you're doing, and try to make other things happen, because if other things happen, bodybuilding will be relatively easy, because it is at the end of the day. I mean, you just eat, sleep, and train. But Quality Muscle is my Instagram. That's pretty much where you can find me. I will try to get better at like answering any type of messages, because that's one of my downfalls. So if you have reached out to me, I will try to get back to you.
Very cool, man.
But I appreciate you, man. This has been really cool too. And I've seen a lot of the guys that you've interviewed, and they're, like I told you, guys that I've looked up to for a very long time, and guys that have cool stories. And it's just, it's very cool to see, and it's very refreshing. So I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. And I appreciate the kind words. And I just like to say, it's just the beginning, man. We've got Sean Clarita is confirmed on Wednesday
Nice.
this week. And you know, I've been going back and forth with Nick. He's I can't, you know, I think about this, dude. I'm like, I get, you know, a random DM here and there on Instagram. I can't even imagine like the Nicks of the world, the Matt Jansen of the world, the C-Bums, like literally the thousands of DMs they get. But these guys do, like, if you send them like a legit DM,
Yeah.
Well, I haven't been able to get a DM back from C-Bum, but Nick Walker, I've had conversations with him about being on the podcast. He said, hey, after the Olympia, I've gone back and forth with Matt. You know, these guys, my point is, and I try to say this as much as possible, is like, they're real dudes. And it's like, dude, like they're the uncommon amongst all of these fitness people. So it's refreshing. I'm excited, you know, to give people like yourself just the platform to share your story, man. You know what I mean? So thank you, Eddie, for coming on. I greatly appreciate it. And listeners, if you're tuning in through YouTube, thank you once again so very much for joining us on another episode of Behind the Muscle podcast, because if it wasn't for you guys, the podcast wouldn't exist. The Instagram is growing. The YouTube is growing. Like I just said, Sean Clarita is confirmed for this Wednesday to be a guest. I'm just so thankful. I'm so excited for you guys supporting the podcast. I appreciate the DMs that I'm starting to get. I appreciate the comments on YouTube. So what I'm saying, once again, thank you guys so much. 2 favors I'd ask of all of you. First of all, if you have not already subscribed to the YouTube channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. Why is that important? Because I release all of these episodes first on YouTube, and then I shoot them out to all the other social media platforms. So make sure you subscribe. And then another favor I want to just ask those of you that are tuning in through YouTube, take whatever you learn from Eddie, or whatever the value is from Eddie's episode, and just put it in the comments. It's great to hear from you guys. What you guys are learning through these stories of Behind the Muscle. Go ahead and do that. I would greatly appreciate that. And then finally, take this episode of Eddie's, share it on all your social media platforms. Make sure you tag Eddie. Make sure you tag Behind the Muscle. That way we know you listened and you found value specifically in Eddie's episode. And then finally, I will leave you all with this. Remember, behind the muscle, there's always a story. We'll catch you guys later.